welcome back to Genuine Love Podcast. You have one half of the Genuine Love duo here today. Jensen couldn't record last minute, and so I'm here with a special guest, my husband, Philip.
It's me.
It's me. Hey.
Hey.
How you doing? Haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, happy to step in and carry the load for you.
You didn't really have a choice, but thanks for being here. All right, well, today I made Philip come up here. Actually, I did give you a choice, and you decided to come up here because you're a really good husband.
I could have been lazy.
You could have been lazy.
Could have binged Netflix instead.
Is that what you wish you were doing right now?
No, I want to be here with you. Of course.
Okay. But today I thought that we would talk about just kind of as we're headed into summer 2021, everything with COVID and all that craziness that we've experienced in the past year and 3 months, almost year and a half, is kind of winding down. I know it depends on who you talk to, depends on your opinion of everything, but as far as we're concerned, it's all winding down. Things are getting back to normal, you know, if that's what you want to call it. But one of the things we want to do is just remember what the Lord has done in this season. We don't want to look back at it as a wasted season. We don't want to look back at it as like, gosh, that was terrible. Glad we've moved on, because we know the Lord can use anything, and He has used that season of our lives in really, really big ways. And I feel like even together and separately, we've grown so much more than
big time,
than where we were before COVID even happened. So today we're just going to kind of talk about what we've seen the Lord do in our lives over the past season. And some of this may resonate with you, some of it may not resonate with you. Even if you don't relate to any of the stuff we say, you know, it would be good to even just sit down with a piece of paper and just kind of write out the things that you've seen the Lord do, so that way you can remember. And it's always good to go back and remember and to be able to recount the faithfulness of the Lord. And some seasons, I'm sure, have been tougher, or this season has been tougher for others, I'm sure, than it has for, you know, us or other people. So, you know, we're not trying to relate everybody's COVID season on the same level, but we know that no matter what has happened in this year, the Lord can always work and has, I'm sure, worked, and it's just a matter of us seeing it or, you know, allowing Him to. So do you want to start us off today? What's one thing you have learned this year?
Well, I think it's just been a year of refinement for me, and that's probably a theme I'll kind of come back to as we go through this. But the Lord has just really refined me in a lot of ways. I think one of the biggest ones is the Lord just taught me that I needed to consume less, or at least consume more productively in terms of... I
was going to say, how many books have you read this year? How many books have you read in 2021?
Well, yeah. Okay, so I'll reframe it.
No,
consume
really
more productively.
Say the number of books you've read in 2021.
Read or listened to?
Both. The books you've consumed.
I just finished my 24th book.
Man.
So yeah, but
sorry, I know what you mean though.
Prior to that, I was consuming podcasts and Twitter content and sports articles and everything else in probably unhealthy ways, in ways that were taking up too much of my time. And a lot of it, the Lord just showed to me that I was pursuing kind of unproductive pursuits. Information that was outdated 3 days after I would take it in. And I had a podcast feed that was probably 15 or 20 podcasts long that I felt like I had to listen to all of them every week.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that with our podcast.
And I remember just especially at the beginning of of COVID, just kind of constantly scrolling Twitter, looking for news updates and consuming everything I could get my hands on from the people I followed on Twitter, and needing to know everybody's opinion on everything all the time. And social media is not something that I've really had much of a relationship with since college. So, and the Lord just kind of showed me I needed to stop and needed to pull back. I needed to just refine and get rid of and cut away at some of the chaff that was in my life, in the ways that I was being entertained and those kinds of things. So yeah, like what that looked like practically was starting to really read and try to, not completely fill that void with other things, but at least going after things that were more productive and more beneficial to my character and my brain, instead of just this mindless news and sports and pop culture and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, and like you said, yeah, I've read a lot of books so far this year. I've got a goal to read 50 books this year, and I'm on pace for that, but that includes audiobooks, and I listen to audiobooks on 2.3x speed like a madman.
So. I don't understand how you retain that at all. But hey,
it's character building.
You do you. But so how have you seen that impact, I guess, or the way you do day-to-day life now? Like, can you tell a difference in your mindset and stuff like that? Or
I think it's the biggest change is that my mind is not so drawn away to and kind of constantly feeling the need to check Twitter, constantly feeling the need to listen to a new podcast, or to maybe the biggest one that I didn't mention earlier was fantasy sports. Just always being on my fantasy sports apps and having to read up on all the news and all of the updates, and not just being I'm probably still too glued to my phone in some ways, but I think I've gotten a lot better in that respect of just not feeling that constant tug to look and to swipe and to scroll, and it's just allowing me to be more focused and present, and you can speak to whether if you actually think I've grown in that area or not.
No, yeah, I definitely do. I can tell a big difference. Not that you were terrible before by any means, but like I can tell you're more attentive and not worried about, stuff that doesn't matter, I guess. Which I'm guilty of that too. That's good. One of the things that I've learned this year is, so like, as far as spending time with the Lord goes, I think I've always tried to attribute my lack sometimes, or my laziness sometimes, of spending time with him to children. Like, like I just, it's so hard when you have children, and like when you were getting out the door for work and stuff like that, like there's just no time to do it, which, is just an excuse, because even when we were first married, like I struggled consistently spending time with the Lord every day. But I always try to contribute it to something else. And then once COVID happened, it was kind of like, hey, you've got nothing but time right now. All that
time you were looking for, you got it.
Yeah, and I mean, people with kids can attest to this too. Like, it's not like all of a sudden, not a ton changed. I mean, my day-to-day did not change, but one huge change was you staying home.
Right.
And you're still working from home, and so I didn't have that excuse. Not that I wanted an excuse, but it was always like, this is my problem. This is my problem.
You could kind of maintain a victimhood about it.
Sort of, yeah. And then once COVID happened, you're at home. It's like, okay, you don't have an excuse anymore. Like, this is a discipline that you have got to create in your life, and ask God to, like, help you to want to spend time with him. And he really has done that this year. And I mean, it's like, I feel like it can be seasonal sometimes, and I want to get to a point where it's not seasonal and I'm constantly, yearning to spend time with him. But this year has been really sweet because that time has been given to us, and it's like, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
You got to do it. And I had to realize, like, oh no, it wasn't a problem really of not being able to. It was a problem of not wanting to, or not feeling like I guess feeling like I had other things to do instead. So that's been kind of sweet.
I'll just jump or kind of off of that into my next one. And overall, I guess the theme would be intentionality. And part of that is with time, intentionality with time, and also intentionality with relationships. I think before last year, we both just, I know I was praying a lot just for friendships, for deeper friendships and connections, and being, just finding ways to be more involved in things, and felt like we were just maybe, I'm having a hard time finding the right way to say it, but we weren't involved enough. We didn't have enough going on to make me feel like we were using our time wisely, and maybe we were kind of going through the motions of life and just getting through the days. Raising kids is always, makes you busy enough to feel like you always have too much going on, but it seemed like maybe we didn't have too much of the right stuff going on to really make me feel like fulfilled in terms of the things that we were pursuing, or the things we were involved in. And then that got really answered over the past year, just especially with friendships, right? Just really kind of in a time where so many people are just insanely isolated and literally socially distanced from one another. We, I think, just had the joy of going deeper into really good friendships with people, especially from church, and getting to know them better, and starting to do things, to do ministry, to get involved in discipleship groups, to get involved in softball teams, and then that's just kind of opened the doors to more relationships, which has been incredible. And now we're kind of on the other side of that, and having to realize, okay, now we've got to be more intentional with our time and being restrictive with what we do and what we say yes to and the things that we're involved in. So we're kind of seeing the other side of that intentionality of, okay, now how do we limit ourselves just to those relationships and pursuits that the Lord has for us in this season, and make sure that we kind of maintain all the quality time with one another and our family that we need, and don't get too busy for the Lord, right? Because we can start saying yes to so many good things that then we get too busy and too bogged down in all the good things that we're doing and just get burnt out, right? And we get maybe even now we kind of we'll talk through our schedule or talk through something that we want to do and be like, well, that's 4 nights in a row that we've got something going on, and is it worth it? Is that gonna be the best thing for us to do that week, or do we need to say no to something to make sure that we are just leaving room for our family, for our quality time together, for our, I don't know, just to relax or whatever. So I don't know, I've seen it come, I guess, full circle a little bit.
Which is cool.
And just to see the intentionality in both facets of pursuing things for the Lord, for your own relationships, pursuing Him, each morning, and then also intentionality in what we say no to make sure that we pursue the right things in the right ways. And we were talking to one of our friends who basically we view as like a mentor and go to for wisdom and stuff like that. But he was telling us just a couple of days ago that the goal is not serving the Lord. He doesn't need us to serve Him. He allows us to serve Him. But the goal is to have an intimate relationship with Him. And then out of that, He shows us how to serve Him. And that just really hit home for me, because I think sometimes we think we've got to do all this stuff to serve Him. We've got to say yes to everything that comes our way to serve the Lord. And He was reminding us, not everything is yours. Not everything is for you to lead or serve in or whatever.
it's just so important for us to walk closely with the Lord so that we know with confidence what we can say yes to and what we should say no to. All right, so another thing that I've learned this year, I feel like I've learned so much this year, and I probably didn't even write down everything that I've learned, but we're going to hit some highlights. But one big thing that I think I've learned this year is that those who have the most to say don't necessarily have the most wisdom. And I mean, sometimes you think the personalities that are the loudest, or people who talk more and have more to say, you're like, oh, wow, they've got so much to say about the Bible or about the Lord or whatever. They've got so much wisdom, which sometimes, yeah, that's the case, but sometimes they're just talking. And I've learned that big time this year because I've seen up close and personal, and just also like from seeing celebrity pastors or whatever who have said really good things in the past, but all of a sudden their lives haven't backed that up. And you find out that whole time they were saying all that stuff, they were doing something else. And so just the importance of fruit in your life, and people you listen to, making sure that they have the fruit in their lives and that it's backing it up, that their lives are backing up what they're saying, and that they're not just sharing their head knowledge, but that they also have heart knowledge. And this year, I mean, we have heard so many opinions from so many people, and it's just been eye-opening to realize, I mean, really, our source of truth is the Bible, not other people. But it does say in James 3:17, the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. And so, I don't know. I guess I've just learned too that it's important to pray that God gives us wisdom, because it does say in the Bible that if we ask for it, it will be given to us. And to make sure the people that we're listening to, whether it's pastors or friends or whatever, are showing the fruit of this, and that it's true wisdom, that it lines up with James 3:17, and that it's not, sometimes you can hear sometimes a note when it's like, oh, that sounded a little out of tune. And to be able to recognize that. And it says in John, it's talking about, or Jesus is talking about, how his followers will bear fruit. And he says, I am the true vine, my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. So, like I said, making sure the people we're listening to are showing this fruit, making sure that we are bearing that fruit. And if we're not, if we don't see fruit in our own lives, or you can even ask like a close friend, hey, do you see fruit in my life from being a follower of Jesus? And if they say no, or if you don't recognize fruit in your own life, just spending time with the Lord and saying, God, what's the problem here? Like, why am I not bearing fruit? And maybe coming to the realization that you're not where you should be with him. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's been a big one for me, and something that is a good lesson to learn. I mean, because it can be disappointing whenever people that you've followed or look up to kind of let you down in some areas.
Yeah.
But we're all people, we're all humans, and that's why our truth always has to be God, the Word of God, and not other people, because people will fail us every time.
Yeah, and that ties really well into the next thing that I learned this year.
Good.
And that is that I love our church. I love Mars Hill Community Church. I think what Virginia was saying just about, hearing a lot of things from a lot of voices and a lot of people kind of shouting through megaphones on social media and sharing opinions and all kinds of stuff. I know that it's led us to see, I guess, a little bit more below the surface layer of churches and pastors and kind of the polarization of the church and the divisions that is created and stuff.
The church in general.
Yeah, the church in general. Yeah. And I just really appreciate the way that our church has handled everything over the past year, and the wisdom that they did kind of they put forth, and the way that our leadership rallied and thoughtfully and prayerfully kind of considered what our response to COVID was going to be, what the ways that we should take precautionary measures, but then also be diligent to return and to resume kind of the assembly of believers in person, and taking measures to do that, to in some ways kind of submit to government authorities in thoughtful ways, but also just to do things biblically and to try in every way that we could to make sure that we were not forsaking what the Bible taught in order to kind of cave into fear or whatever was easy or whatever other churches were doing. And I know that there's been so many people who have been unchurched largely for the past year, or kind of just doing bare bones church attendance, or just kind of watching online or all that kind of stuff, but have really missed out on a lot of the things that gathering every Sunday and having your small group times and children's ministry and all those other things that happen on Sunday mornings that are so vital to our relationships and to our walk with the Lord. I just really appreciate the way that we got back to it, and we did everything that we could to try to make sure that people were taken care of, and that we were able to meet, we were able to gather, that we got childcare back quickly, that we did a masks required service to try and accommodate people that were more hesitant about gathering, and have still been continuing that, and just the pastors being willing to take that extra level of effort and work on every week to try to make everyone in our congregation feel included and heard and taken care of and shepherded really well. And I definitely have felt that, and just really want to shout out our church leadership, our church family, and say that if you are frustrated or have not been able to go back to church or anything, Mars Hill Community Church is happy to have you. Sunday mornings, 9:15 and 11.
They paid him to say that. Or if you're in a church that still hasn't gotten back to assembling, find another church. I feel like that's another thing. We have a lot of new people at our church who I've talked to who have basically just said, yeah, our church just didn't open, so we started coming here. And people are hungry. They're hungry for community and hungry for just assembling with other believers in the church. So yeah, I would just encourage you, like Philip said, to get back at it if you can. I mean, I understand some people may have circumstances that don't allow them to, but if you are able to, just go ahead, get back in it, find a church that is meeting in person. Okay, so the next thing that I learned this season of life is not to fear eternity.
How did you learn how to do that?
Okay, I mean, sometimes it's still a struggle, but...
Think about it right now.
No, stop.
Think about what eternity means.
The only thing that gets me is, like, the concept of no time and living forever. And if I start thinking about that...
You're going to spiral right now in front of me.
I'm not. But I just remember, I think this was like back in January. But yeah, I mean, it used to terrify me just thinking about, oh my gosh, once we get to heaven, it's
Don't
almost
do
like
it.
there's no escape.
Don't do it, because
Stop,
I
I'm
haven't
trying to
learned.
talk.
I haven't learned it. I haven't
Stop.
learned it yet. So you're gonna be freaking me out over here.
So, but just thinking about like, okay, once we get to heaven, like we're there forever. Like, and I mean, Philip can tell you, I'm like a time person. Like, I love the concept of time and
Schedule.
schedules.
Oof.
Yeah. And so just always thinking about, like being in heaven forever has always kind of freaked me out a little bit. And so I remember back in January of 2020, before everything happened, I think it was January or February, I remember just driving down the road and I was praying and I was like, Lord, I don't want to be scared of heaven. I don't want to fear being in eternity with you. Like, I want to be excited for that, like really fully excited. Just please help me to not fear that anymore. And I heard him say, do you trust me? And I was like, well, yeah. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, well, yeah, like if I trust him, I know he's good. I know he's perfect. I know he's not going to create anything where we get there and we're like, oh my gosh, we're stuck here forever. I know that our minds here on earth only can understand time. Mm-hmm. When we're up there, we're created differently. So it's not going to feel the same way. And so that has really been a comfort to me. Just anytime, I mean, and it's not like I think about it a lot, but it's like if I ever start thinking about the concept of eternity, I just remember him kind of whispering like, hey, do you trust me? I'm like, yes, okay, I trust you. I can move on. I trust you. I trust that it's going to be amazing, and I trust that I get to spend eternity with you, and it's going to be so great. And I mean, I'm so thankful. And, what's the alternative? Going to heaven and dying? It's just something that our brains cannot comprehend. But, even that verse, Proverbs 3:5-6 has always been my life verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths. And so I'm like, okay, can't lean on my own understanding. My mind is finite and it is, it's living in a sinful, fallen world. And so I just have to trust him. And then all the COVID stuff happened and everything that's happened. And the more and more things that happen in this world, the more he's like made me excited to be with him in eternity and to live in a perfect place with him. Because I feel like up until 2020, I still love life and I'm thankful for life, but I hadn't really seen a ton of the bad, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been very sheltered and blessed our whole lives, and we just haven't seen a lot of just like really bad things happen, and then all of a sudden everything starts happening and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of this life. And so that's been really cool because it really was like he was like, okay, here we go.
I remember, I think as a teenager, probably had a lot to do with it, but I used to pray like, please don't come until I get married or until I have...
answered that prayer.
Yeah, until I have kids. I wanted to experience these, the best things about earth before, the rapture happened or whatever, which was also kind of it's all a silly mindset to fear eternity in general, but also to be like, but at least, let me do these things that I want to do. And it's just like, man.
Which, I mean, marriage is a good thing.
It is, yeah.
Kids are a good thing. You want to experience those things.
Definitely.
But,
But, all that to say is like, now that you've got to do that, it's like, yeah, yes, Lord Jesus, come. It's all downhill. Is it all down? No, I'm just
don't
kidding.
You want to see grandkids?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Well, maybe he'll let us see grandkids, but we'll see.
We'll see.
the way the earth's going, I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm okay with heaven at this point.
Yeah.
I guess. You can keep that in there.
All right. What's something else that the Lord has taught you this year?
Goals are overrated.
Expound.
No. I guess what I mean by that is just that the Lord has bigger and better things than any of the goals that you have for yourself. So small G goals, little things that you want to work toward are great and can be helpful to some people. But in terms of a broad kind of 5-year, 10-year plan type, I want my life to look like this, and I want to have done this, and I want my family to look like this, and I want to be here. It's just all kind of meaningless in the way that God wants to work in you. And just small case in point is that, 2 years ago, I guess 3 years ago now, I just finished up an MBA program, was going to work for Home Depot in kind of finance area. My long-term plan was to be a CFO by the time I was 35 at, not at Home Depot, but, at some company, and just thought, I wanted to rise quickly to the top, blah, 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 blah. And then fast forward a few years and I'm in IT, risk management, just complete career pivot. Have, gotten the opportunity to work from home since March of last year, and just everything about, our situation, what I'm doing, which is completely different from what my goals were, has been fantastic, and really just enjoy it. And also just realize I don't really know. I have no idea what the next 5 years will bring, and don't really want to know. I'm just kind of like you said, do we trust God? Yes, and that's enough. That's enough for me to know. Is that the Lord has taken care of us. He will take care of us. He will, put us where He wants us, and that could look totally different from whatever the normal, planned out trajectory of a career or of a life plan, where we live, what we do, who our friends are, what our kids, what their schedules look like, all that kind of stuff, what we think we want them to do, and all that kind of stuff is just all in the Lord's hands, and He has something, better than the best plans that you could come up with for yourself. Even if, I think if the story got spoiled for you, and the Lord told you what you were going to be doing 5 years from now, you might hate it. You might think that doesn't sound great. I don't want to be doing that at all. But that's kind of the point, is that He prepares you for whatever He's got for you in that intervening time. And He sanctifies us, and He transforms us. He changes us into the person that He's going to want us to be, to step into things that might seem really hard or different from what we or from what our past selves might have wanted. And I definitely think that's been true for us, for our lives, for what we thought our 5-year plan 5 years ago would have looked like for us at this point. But it's just great to see, and it's just a great reminder of like you said, do we trust God? How much do we trust God? Can we trust Him with everything? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's been really cool to see, because I think it's really great to have goals and discipline and stuff I think those are good things, and I think those are things that God has instilled within us. But the way that I've seen your goals shift has been really cool.
Yeah.
From like you were saying, being CFO at this point, and president, owning a company or whatever at this point. And those things may still happen, but now your mindset has shifted to my goal is to raise my children in the fear and admonition.
Yeah.
In the fear and the admonition of the Lord. Yeah. And I've seen your priorities shift to that being your main thing, and even saying I don't want that kind of a job anymore, because that means I would have to work this many hours, and I need that time to invest in my children. And I'm just so thankful for that as your wife, that my children get to benefit from that, and they're not going to have a dad, hopefully, that's gone all the time or things like that, but they're going to be able to learn from you and get wisdom from you and stuff like that. So that's been really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of just would sum up the best part of what the whole last 15 months has been for us, is just more time, more availability, more freedom to pursue our passions. And and what my passion is right now is my family and my relationships, ministry, those kinds of things that I never I guess before 2020 didn't think I had time to, definitely didn't feel like I had time or enough time to spend with you guys every day. That was when Will was a baby, and he's going to bed at 6:00 every night. I might not even get home in time to see him before you'd put him to bed and stuff. And just how different that's changed. And now, and because of having more time to spend with you guys during the week, I feel like it opens up more time to do things through church, and getting to participate in leading a small group with our youth ministry the past year, and kind of just more time to dedicate to music and worship ministry, and pouring effort back into those things that I was passionate about, whereas before just so much of my time and energy and thoughts was all about work, because I was there all day. That's just what it was. And now my mindset has completely changed. My desires are different. My goals now are different. And the Lord has done. I just see the fingerprints of the Lord on all of that, and answers to prayer through all of that. So
yeah. And if we haven't said it, Philip's still working at home from all the COVID stuff, and we don't know how long it's going to last, but we are so thankful for the time that we've had.
And if my bosses are listening, we hope it lasts a lot longer.
Please don't send him back to work. Well, back to the office, I guess. You're still working, obviously. Well, and that leads me into my next one, is that I've learned this year that my children are my first ministry. They're my biggest ministry right now. And I remember at the beginning of like COVID happening and stuff, we were sitting on the back porch, and I was just kind of telling you, like, and I think if you're a mom, you could probably understand this too. It's like, I just want to be a part of something. Like, I want to make a difference. I want to be used by the Lord. And I feel like sometimes as moms, we just kind of feel unseen, like we're doing all the really hard physical and emotional labor that nobody sees. Yeah. And you just kind of feel overlooked sometimes. Or it's like, I see the Lord using this person in like such big ways. Like, why am I just
on Instagram?
No, I'm not talking about on Instagram. I'm talking about like just people close in my life, and I'm like, but he's using them in such big ways. I want to be used like that. What's wrong with me? That kind of thing. Yeah. But I think this past year, he's really just been showing me more and more like, hey, this is your ministry. This is a big deal. Like raising these children to be warriors for God, and to stand strong, especially like, in the times that we're in. That is a big ministry. That's your first ministry. And that's just, I don't know, I guess like made me understand more that that's a big role to play, and that I'm not supposed to be lazy about it, or just kind of slack off, or, be on my phone all day or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm supposed to be training them and teaching them and discipling them and just raising them to love the Lord and fear the Lord. And one thing that I heard too, I think it was on another podcast, was someone was saying she prays every day that God would give her children wisdom, and that they would be able to discern truth from lies. And that's something that I've started praying over them. Right now they're little, they're 4 and 2, but that as they grow up, that God will give them wisdom, and that they'll be able to recognize the lies, because lies are getting like more sneaky, you know. Some things that are sounding right or sounding good, you look in scripture and you're like, actually, no, that's not right. And you have to be able to discern that, and to be able to tell, this is a truth, this is a lie. This sounds like the truth, but like I was saying earlier, it's kind of off key. Something's wrong with that. Yep. But yeah, it's kind of like ignited a fire in me, like, okay, get to work. This is a big deal. I am using you. I'm using you to raise these people. This is the next generation. And that doesn't mean that just me, he doesn't have plans for or whatever, but it does mean in the season that I'm in right now, this is my priority.
Right.
And this is what I'm to be pouring everything that I'm supposed to into.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, you're doing a great job too.
Thanks.
Yeah. But it is super important, and it's also great because we see fruit from it already. It's not just that. I think probably because of the way that children are, and you know, they can be stubborn, they can be hard-headed, they can want what they want and try to be manipulative and controlling and all these things, right? It seems like when we try to teach them obedience, it goes in one ear and out the other. And when we're just trying to, you know, teach them to, you know, the rules and to obey the rules, and here's why, it doesn't always seem to work. But teaching them to be sensitive to the truth and to Jesus, to their Savior, to their Creator, and seeing, especially with Ella, her hunger for the Bible and the stories and discovery of who Jesus is. And I mean, it's just been awesome to see. And that's been another thing, I guess, that's probably happened over the past 15 months. It's just seeing her discover truth and all these Bible stories, and the way that her heart has been transformed already as a 4.5-year-old.
She's not 4, she's 4.5.
She would want me to correct the record there. But yeah, it doesn't go, that effort has not returned void. You know, that labor has not been in vain already. You know, it's definitely already seeing the you know, results from that, and hopefully that continues. And it will be hard, and it will seem fruitless at times, but it's obviously not. It's productive, and it is it's purposeful, it's impactful, and there are those are the people that we're called to make disciples of right now, first and foremost, and not exclusively, but definitely first and foremost.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, do you have anything else that you've learned?
I didn't take down any more topics, so I'm unprepared. I could shoot from the hip.
No, you're fine.
But those were the main things that I wanted to share.
Yeah. Well, I'll share my last one, and it's been to have a thankful heart. And like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, I mean, that was my big thing when COVID started. Well, and we thought it was going to be like a 2-week ordeal. And my thing was like, I was like, I don't want to waste this time. I want this time to mean something. And like I said, I thought I was talking about 2 weeks. It was a lot longer than 2 weeks. Spoiler alert. But I just kept praying, like, Lord, help me not to waste this time. And I feel like one of the ways he did that was by teaching me to have a thankful heart. And I mean, there have been times in this season where I've gotten so frustrated and I've gotten so angry at certain things. But I've also learned to be thankful and count all of the ways that the Lord has used this season. And like I said, your season may have been so much harder than ours. I'm not trying to just blow off, this past year for anybody. But we can always find things to be thankful for. And that's something that he's continued to teach me during this season. Like, hey, yeah, this year's been tough, but what are you thankful for? What do you see me doing that you can be thankful for? And I mean, if I were to sit down and make a list of everything that I'm thankful for just in this past year, I feel like I could write a book almost.
Oh, you should write a book. Oh, yeah.
You would be my only reader. But maybe I will, just so you can add it to your book count.
Oh, yeah. Can you do it before the end of this year so I can put it on my 2021 reading list?
I'll do my best. But yeah, just to have a thankful heart and to be able to count the things that he has done that are good and that maybe not everybody has seen, or maybe it's been like in our family life or whatever that I've seen him do through friends' lives. And that's just been, it's been really sweet, and it's just taught me a lot. And Paul says in Philippians 4:11-13, I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. And I think in all of our lives, we're going to have times where we have plenty, and we're going to have times where we don't have plenty, whether that's monetarily, whether it's relationships, whatever. And it's just so important for us to learn how to be content in every situation. And it's not learning out of our own willpower. It's learning because we're filled with the Spirit, and we ask Jesus to fill us with joy and help us to be content and find our rest in him, and to be able to say, you are all I need. As long as I have you, I'm okay. And that doesn't mean times aren't going to be hard. That doesn't mean things aren't going to hurt and be painful, but it does mean like, hey, I have you. You are all I need, and I'm okay because of that. Yeah. And I get to spend forever in heaven with you. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and I know that we have been talking a lot about all the, I guess, the good things that have happened, what we're thankful for. But I know there's probably plenty of you out there who have, maybe you feel more like your scales are tipped toward the trial side of things as opposed to the joy side of things through the past 15 months. And but even through that, I'm sure there are lots of things that you guys have learned, have experienced, hopefully that have brought you closer to the Lord through. But if not, like maybe it's time to assess what has the past year been like for you? What has the Lord been trying to show you? What has the Lord refined in your life, whether that was painful or joyful, whether that was through plenty or through lack? What has the Lord used the past year to show you, to remind you of, to open your eyes to? Maybe just take some time to think through that. And I'm gonna take some creative license here and say, like, email genuinelovepodcast@gmail.com. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you're taking Jensen's line.
That's right. Email us and tell us, maybe what's one thing that kind of like what we've gone through. What's one thing that the Lord's shown you, or that you've learned, or that you're thankful for? And maybe if we get some dope responses, Virginia and Jensen can read a few of them off on the next show or something like that.
That sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for being with me today. What are we going to go do after this? Finish the Avengers Endgame?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We went back through all the Marvel movies. Another thing to be thankful for this year. All right. Well,
Disney Plus. Yeah.
Disney Plus. Okay. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Well, I'll be back.
Not me. Probably.
Probably won't be back.
Probably.
I'll be back with Jensen, and we will talk to you next week.